Hi there. Welcome to the One Handshake podcast. My name is Jillian Vorce. I'm host of the show. Here at One Handshake, we're about connecting people and creating opportunities. Today's guest literally epitomizes this. My guess is by the end of this episode, you'll be, well, it's probably going to be like a masterclass, actually. You'll not only be a fan of his, but you'll also gain practical insights about how relationships can add value to business and life. But let me share a little bit about his background first. Markell Blount is a seasoned business leader and connector with over 25 years of experience in business development across commercial real estate, technology, and risk management. As the founder of the Dealmakers, he facilitates events bringing together professionals that serve the deal-making ecosystem. As CEO of the Wealth Building Project, Markell is on a mission to redefine wealth, championing financial education, personal growth, and community-driven success as the foundation for true financial freedom. Through his mastermind programs and online community, he provides a space where ambitious professionals can connect, learn, and elevate themselves to their highest potential. But now, my version of Markell's bio. Markell is one of the most well-connected, down-to-earth, and generous human beings that I've ever met. So a quick shout out. Thank you, Matthew Growney, for introducing us, I don't know, umpteen years ago. Um, so without further ado, welcome to One Handshake, Markell.
Wow, thank you for that. That's amazing, and I'm so happy to be here and have an opportunity to share with you and share with the audience a little bit about our backgrounds and how we came together and
Mm.
overall how to connect the dots and make friends and
Mm.
enjoy ourselves in this thing called life.
This thing called life. Do you remember when we were introduced?
I absolutely do. Matthew Growney, who's up in Concord, Massachusetts, had, told me, he said, there's somebody you need to meet urgently, and had an opportunity to connect us. And I think we met in town
Mm-hmm.
over to the seaport.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the venue, but it was an event that was going on. We had an opportunity to connect. So that was the foray into Jillian and Markell.
Yes, for sure. I remember that. And we were standing outside of the event. It was like a tech event, like a mobile tech event or something, mobile
Yeah,
booth or
with
something.
the building. It was just kind of it was definitely a tech-focused event that was
Mm,
consistent, but it was in a relatively newer building right by the
mm.
seaport, already
Right.
being built up at the time.
Right, right. And look at us now. Who would have thunk? You know? You're down in you left Boston for Georgia, and I'm in Amsterdam now. I mean, who would have
I
thought, you
know.
know?
I don't think Zoom was around at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe it was, but it definitely wasn't the way after COVID. It wasn't utilized the way that we get an opportunity to do it now.
No, for sure, for sure. I think we might have had, like, I don't know, BlackBerries or something. It was not flip phones. It might have been of a BlackBerry time. I don't even know.
It was during
But,
BlackBerry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So now we've mentioned the word connector, I don't know how many times already. Let's start there. Let's start with, yeah, being a connector. Do you think you have always been a connector? Like, can you go back kind of and identify where it began?
Sure. It's funny. So I've always had that personality, right? And so never really thought of it much in regards to business or advancing relationships or anything like that. And so I would tell you that where I first started to understand the power of really being nice and is was it was really my first job after college, and I was with a company called Aerotech, and they gave us a book. It was my first business book, and it was called, and I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People
Of
by Dale
course.
Carnegie. So that was a book, everyone read that across the board. So the first week we had to spend in the office just kind of getting up to speed and getting everything done. And the second week, people from all over the country flew to Baltimore for training for a week.
Mm,
And so on the way to the airport, I was reading the book. I was just finishing the book, and I said, "Well, this is all pretty common sense, but let me put this into action
mhm.
somehow." And so it's interesting. I was in line back then. We didn't have apps. We didn't have phones.
Yeah,
This is not to date myself, but this is
yeah.
back in 1998. So we were all in line, at the airport and checking in. There were some storms going on, so there were some delays, and the gentleman in front of me who was talking to the person behind the counter was berating her just because of his frustration
Mm,
that his flight was delayed or canceled. And so I remember thinking, let me utilize this to see how this might work. And so I remember going up to her next in line and, just apologizing for this gentleman's behavior and that I appreciated her and the work that she was doing to help us get to where we needed to go. And she rewarded me by putting me in first class without even asking. And so
Mm,
I remember thinking, wow, like that, like, okay, so the
mm,
power of just being a good person and treating people well, right? And how does that translate?
mm,
And then over time, just in business, I just started to realize that, you know, I've always been in sales. So selling and, coming straight out of it just didn't yield the results that I wanted. But that was the expectation for every company that I worked
mm,
for. You
mhm,
just you have to sell, you have to make cold calls. And I'm just thinking over time, there's just a better way. There has to
mhm,
be. And
mhm.
then I picked up a book called Never Eat Alone
Ah, Keith.
by Keith
Yes.
Moran.
Yes.
Never Eat Alone. And that changed everything for me. I mean, now it was deliberate. Now I was like, okay, I was looking for opportunities to add value all the time
Mhm,
before selling or pitching anything. And I found that, as I built my ecosystem, I built my network, that it was just this ecosystem of goodwill. It was just
mm,
good people trying to surround yourself with good people. But here's the thing, here's the lessons also learned from that. I also learned the danger of just connecting everybody, because
mm,
your reputation is on the line.
mm,
You meet somebody new, and if you don't know them necessarily well, and you're making introductions to other folks in your network, and it doesn't go well, that sours your name and your reputation. And
mhm.
so another book, this is all about me reading, another book, um, Give and Take by
Adam.
Ritz,
Yeah. Good one.
um, what taught me the sort of the givers, the takers, the matchers. And so you have to be careful and surround yourself with givers, people that naturally reciprocate so that you don't starve while, them, you may be working to help somebody who not necessarily can help you right away. And that's okay, right?
Mm,
But the big lesson for me there was that some of the best salespeople in the world are unconditional givers,
mhm,
but some of the worst salespeople in the world are also unconditional givers. And
mhm,
that was the research, that was the data that he found. So the trick is just surrounding yourself with people that typically are also givers so that they naturally will look to reciprocate, right?
mm,
And
mm,
so I started to just live my life that way. I just, I don't worry about it too much. I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. But I usually test people now. I
mm.
find um, I like to listen and hear, again, whether they can offer or figure out ways to help me, and helping me might be helping someone else, you
Right.
know? And so what's the demeanor look like? So that's kind of the really the genesis of over time. It really stemmed from I had that nature, but just that personality.
Mhm,
And then I just started it was like a badge of honor. I just loved it. I loved helping people and connecting people. And I guess selfishly, it just makes me feel good.
mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
and I think that, the karma that creates, right, just always brings clarity to me. And so if I'm struggling or, having a hard time or stressed or depressed or whatever it might be, I try to focus on helping someone.
Right.
And that brings me unbelievable amounts of clarity, and it makes me feel good. And so I'm usually able to snap out of it.
So I feel like right now, everybody listening to this, aren't you excited? Because I feel like, yes, this is it. This is the masterclass. You see, so many things I want to follow up with.
Yes.
So I love that you talked about kind of yes, having a personality, kind of a predisposition towards this, but you also made a concerted effort to kind of develop this and to apply this. So thank you for kind of underscoring that. I also love that your first experience, at the airport, that's an experience that we all have had, or many of us have had or will have. It's very relatable, and I also love that it immediately kind of calls into question or blurs that line between personal and professional relationships,
Mhm.
and how kind of operating in this way is not necessarily something that you turn on or off. It's something that you become. It's a disposition. It's a mindset.
Sure.
And the way I talk about it, so Yeah, the way I talk about it is yeah, how to get lucky in business and life. It's like how to, but the irony is that you didn't go up, to the counter that day expecting, or probably never even crossed your mind that you might get an upgrade to first class. And this is the power and the beauty of it is these things can happen and it starts to multiply and then you kind of get into a flow where you're getting lucky all the time, right? And so is that
True.
amazing, yeah, that amazing equation is like luck is what happens when
Yeah.
opportunity meets preparation, you know?
That's it's 100%, and I laugh about it because it also allowed me to understand charm.
Mm,
And so, I would start to do it all the time. I would go and I would ask. I would always ask. I figured out, look, you don't know until you ask. So I would ask, is there an opportunity to be upgraded to first class without, I wasn't a
mm,
wealthy man with, with all kinds of money. I just find an opportunity to to
yep,
to luxury. I'm tall, so I have long legs. And so if they could do it, sometimes they would do it. And if not, I would always revert back to, well, can I get an exit row? Can you, maybe, look at my, and so
mm,
so chances are I usually had a pretty good chance, probably a 65% chance that I would be upgraded to a better seating arrangement. Just from, again, being nice
mhm,
and figure, and making somebody feel good.
mhm, and then asking for it sometimes, asking
Yeah.
for,
You
you
have
know,
to ask,
yeah, sometimes, asking is also a great skill to develop, and knowing how to ask, and what you're asking for, all of those things are something that I think is a developed skill or a little bit of art and a little bit of science perhaps mixed in there, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So then kind of, yeah, you started to kinda touch on this a little bit. I'm curious, how would you, or I guess talk a little bit about the balance between kind of authenticity and being strategic in terms of building, yeah, professional relationships.
Sure. I think it's, like it's like everything else. I'm always sort of in the middle, right? There's always this sort of paradox. I want to be as authentic as possible, right? You want to be you. You want to show up and be authentically you. But I also think, as your point, you want to be strategic in how you go about doing it. So it's like a battle plan, right? If I'm going out to network, and meet people and find them interest, to connect the dots and find, to learn from them, right? And invite them to coffee or have some meeting and figure out other opportunities to collaborate. That's what we typically do as, people that are connectors and folks that
Mhm,
are out networking and trying to find opportunities. But I also find that it's also about positioning. And
mm,
so that's kind of my new buzzword now is that, networking is chasing. It's kind of out there and you're just, business cards, let's go, let's go, let's go versus positioning now.
mhm,
And positioning to me is the podcast, the networking events, hosting those events, right?
mhm,
Creating this environment, creating masterminds, getting people an opportunity to connect and elevate to learn and being a facilitator and a leader in that
mhm,
space. And then when I find that people tend to gravitate toward you, and these are folks that you typically want to start to do business with. And so that's for me, a little bit like I said, being authentic is just showing up and being you, but also just having a strategy
yeah,
for doing it, having a
mhm,
strategy for, adding value, right? And
mhm,
whether that's, for follow up, right? I mean, how many times have you seen folks meet, and then don't have,
right,
don't ever follow up and don't ever stay in touch, don't have a system like a CRM to
right,
put their contacts into. So I think that's part of the tactics, right? In the strategy of how do we go about authentically connecting with folks, but having a plan too, and
mhm,
executing on it, and being very intentional. And so
mm,
that's kind of how I approach it. So it's a little bit of a little bit of a paradox in the way that, you know, I do it because you want to be intentional, but
mhm,
you also want to be natural. You
sure,
want to just, folks that you're going to connect with, you can connect with. And you also don't have to spend tons of time while you're out and connecting with people. It's good to meet with them, connect with them, and then follow up, right? Hit your LinkedIn, right? And
mhm,
they'll get your
mhm,
information. Right now, I mean, I barely get business cards now. Everyone has an app on their phone or something.
yeah,
Hey,
sure,
I'm all I'll just let's LinkedIn, take a picture, and we're good to
mhm,
go.
sure,
That's yeah, that's how yeah, that's how I believe it's important to have a strategy and a plan, but obviously show up authentically.
mhm. So you mentioned the CRM, and I just can't resist my, nerdiness to ask you, will you tell me which one you're using?
Oh, HubSpot. I use
Are you?
HubSpot. I
Okay.
use HubSpot. I just use the free version. I don't. It's. I think they always add
Mm.
features, right? But they always promise it's always free. And so I don't, as just sort of a solopreneur, I don't need a whole lot. I just want a place that I can provide notes and follow up and
Mhm.
add attachments and do put opportunities in there. And so HubSpot completely takes care of everything I need.
Mhm. I used to use HubSpot, I feel like 100 years ago,
Okay.
give or take a few decades. I use Dex now,
Yes.
but anyhow, yeah, I just had to ask, I was just curious.
Oh yeah, I like it. I like it. Never heard
Yeah,
that. But
cool,
I
cool.
mean, there's so many. There's so many.
Yeah, no, of course, I know, it's like the deep that we could yeah, I'm, like, super curious, but I just had to ask you because I actually did not know what you were using. I'm like, "Let me just ask him." Alright, so let's talk about, building bridges in business.
Sure.
Let's talk about building bridges. So you've worked across different industries and socioeconomic backgrounds. So what's kind of a common challenge that you see when it comes to breaking barriers in business or building bridges? And how do you help people to navigate this, or how do you navigate this?
Sure. I mean, relationships. I mean, it
Mm,
really is. It's to me, it's all about relationships. Going back to even being a connector and finding ways to add value to these situations really to me helped. So I'll give you an example. So, I'm from my parents are from the South. So my dad's from Georgia, my mom's from Florida, and they met in Boston. So I was born and raised in Boston and grew up the only child. I do have a half sister. That it's an interesting story we could talk about another
mhm.
time, but that I found out about when I was in college, which is interesting.
Wow.
But I know, yeah. But and she's amazing and I love her to death and we have a great relationship now, but, I being from the Northeast and I was a city kid, but I went to school in the suburbs. And so I had just tremendous amounts of, from the 3rd grade on, I was part of a program called METCO. So that took inner city African American kids and put them out in verbs and gave us a better opportunity for education. And it gave suburban kids some diversity, right? And
Mhm.
some opportunity to make sure that they understood that not everybody just looked like them in that bubble.
Mm, mm,
So, so through that process, not really understanding or knowing it, I just assimilated and, everybody just these became my new friends and playing
mm,
sports, doing those things. So I was building a network and didn't know it, right? I was
mhm.
connecting people and I had a bridged opportunity. Many of my friends' parents were business owners or executives. And so they, just having the opportunity to have conversations going and playing football at Boston College, finding different ways to connect with people, having that story to tell.
Mm,
Those are all really gave me tremendous amounts of opportunity that I could navigate. But not
mm.
everyone had that feeling. Not everyone had those bridges. So kids that might have gone to school in the Boston public schools in the city, they might not have had that bridge or opportunity. So if you went to the financial district in Boston, you might only see a few black people, a few people of color
Yeah,
that whole city, right? And
yeah,
it's of Northeast. It's a lot different here in Atlanta, but it was interesting to see, and I would notice it. I'd be like, like why? Like, what's the reason?" And
right,
it came down to a lack of that bridge, a lack of
right,
those connections, and so I was always naturally good at it based on my experience,
right.
and, and so I would be that person that would help to facilitate being that
Mm,
connector.
mhm,
Uh, a really good example. I was just on the phone with one of my mentors yesterday, and a gentleman who's been around for a long time. He's done a phenomenal job in commercial real estate in the Boston area. He's retired now, and he did a lot of what we call like institutional money raising. And so one of my prodigies who are coming up, who went to my high school, who's a lot younger, he's also in commercial real estate. He just started his own fund, and
mm,
he's looking at raising institutional money. And
mhm,
so, able to make that's that bridge, just continued bridge of,
mhm,
it's a really good connection for you because, not only could he be a mentor, again, these are you're doing the same things. It's just one's now one retired and one's on the come up. And so that's a way to help facilitate those bridges because again, I'm naturally good at this.
mhm,
Um, and that's across the board for anybody. It's just, I do a lot of advisory work. So I sit with individuals and start to figure out in ways to strategize. I don't think people are trying to hold people back or down. They
mhm.
just need exposure and
Yeah,
visibility. They need to ask. They need to learn how to network, right?
Hmm.
I say, I learned this, I believe, from Jim Rohn, who's the legendary salesman. And he talked about taking, find somebody, because if you're not doing well, if you're not doing what you want to do, find someone who's doing what you want to do. Find somebody that has some interest of what you might want to do, and buy them dinner or buy them lunch or buy them a coffee, because the things that you might learn may change your life.
Right.
And so that's how, and successful people love to talk about their success and provide advice. So those are some of the things that I've just been able to do to help to navigate and build different bridges. And that's why, I've been in real estate, I've been in risk management, I've been in technology. It's through relationships that I got every single one of those opportunities.
Yeah.
That's like commercial real estate's one of the hardest things to do in Boston. It's so hard to get into. I mean, some people never get into it. It took me about 6 months. And I was just calling friends from high school that were in the business, friends from college that were in the business, friends who had parents that were in the business. So it always literally circles back to relationships and,
Sure.
how to ask for help. And when you I think when you also add value to people's lives over time and you are that connector, when you ask for help from your network, I feel like they tend to do the best they can to help you.
Hmm.
And so that's been the secret sauce for me, is just
Hmm.
being a good person, finding a way to add value all the time, like consistently throughout your everyday, and do it. And I have a something that I learned, a trick for this, to stay top of mind. I would share. So, it's something so simple. There's 2 things in the give and take book. There's a gentleman, just drawing a blank on his name, but he was interviewed in the book, and he talked about something called the 5-minute favor. And so the 5-minute favor, obviously, was like it sounds. You can do this every day, once a day. Take 5 minutes that you can do something for someone else, right? It just as a way to give, whether that's making an introduction, whether that's making a compliment, writing a review, right? Anything that does something good for someone else on one end. The other piece of advice is, you can do this 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. We've all have pretty good amount of contacts in our phone. Just scroll to the bottom and just literally just ping 1 or 2 people a day that are in it. Just say hi and just, "Hey, I hope all's well, just checking in. It's been a while, blah, blah, blah." And, I think in that regard, you start having a dialogue. "Oh, what are you up to?" You have a call. And now they might not have known or been on the radar, but something that you have to offer can now become a referral or a client or something else. So
Right.
it's a
Right.
great way to, and people love it. Like, they love when you just check in. It's like you're not
Mhm.
selling and you're not
Right.
pitching,
Right.
you're just checking in. So those are the things that, really help me to navigate business waters, even when it's unfamiliar or very uncomfortable,
Hmm.
or I don't know how I'm going to do it. I typically can just start asking people
Right.
in the network, and since we've been doing this for a long time, it tends to work out.
Sure, sure. I love that. And I love your example and talking about your personal journey and how you were literally the bridge, and how that kind of set the table for you. So it sounds to me like there's a bit of a full circle moment for you then with respect to your role with the Play for Peace initiative. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I would love to. Thank you. So, passion projects, and that aligns with the Wealth Building Project as well. So we can kind of talk about that. But the Play for Peace initiative turned out. So, a gentleman who, named Jeff Venter. So he's also a Metco student. So he went to my high school. He grew up in my neighborhood. He was older, but he he was always sort of in the nonprofit world. And after George Floyd, who, passed away in 2020, we had a lot of turmoil, obviously, in the country, and a lot of stress and frustration. So he got together with some friends also from my high school and said, "What can we do?" And so, we need to do something. So they decided to form this Play for Peace initiative, which really was a collaboration between the police, so that we can foster police and the community together, right? And so there was lots of anger, lots of issues. Let's bring those two worlds together. And so they did this in the form of 3-on-3 basketball tournaments, where they would have 2 kids and a police officer on a team, and they did that for about 4 years in a row. Last year, they wanted to expand what they were doing, expand what they're doing in the community, but also touch on financial literacy. And so I was asked to speak on a panel last summer between the Play for Peace initiative and which was the tournament on Saturday, and then the wealth building project was the town hall. And the premise of that was, student athletes can be paid now.
Right.
High school students can be paid from colleges and what they call NIL, which is name, image, likeness. It's a relatively new program where student athletes can share in revenue and get paid for their name and likeness. So, anyway, so the town hall was an opportunity for me to speak on this, and I, having a financial advisory as well background, I'm very passionate about financial literacy, but I never really worked in that space, and it just gave me an opportunity to sort of speak on it and help educate some of the student athletes on the things that they should be looking out for if they are receiving money, but also making a transition into the workforce. And so we did that, and then they asked me to be on the board. And so I said, okay. And so our goal is really getting financial literacy programs through a curriculum, that's both for middle school and high school students across every school, public school and private across the country. That's our big mission. That's our goal. And it's coming together. We've got some pilot projects that we're kicking off in the Boston public school system. And we do also teach this through the form of competition. So, middle school students listening to you talk about financial literacy for an hour is probably not going to go over very well.
Right.
And we do things like, we have a basketball showcase. So the kids will play basketball and then they move into the learning lab and they spend a half an hour or an hour playing, financial literacy Jeopardy. Right. And to see the look on their faces when they're putting it, because they have the answer, like they're paying attention. It's through some competition, good competition. And so, yeah, so it's amazing. And so that's a major initiative that we're rolling into. I started doing that this maybe late July, August, and we've got our pilot programs kicking off. We have a women's in Boston. We have a flag football, American football, a flag football league for girls that's kicking off in the April-May timeframe. And so
Nice.
we launch registration, and that will also have an educational component for financial literacy. And then, of course, the big one is getting our full curriculum into a school system, which is not easy, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
bureaucracy, a
Sure.
lot of red tape, but and we have to have them adopt it because this isn't like a 3-week program. We want it out the year financial literacy. And so yeah, it's amazing. So we're out raising money. We're out doing lots of things to bring awareness to that very important topic because socioeconomically we can really help make changes in the lives of everyday anybody, right? With basic financial literacy so that you can make good decisions earlier in life and not spend 30 years trying to climb out of bad decisions, which happens
Yeah.
to you.
Sure. 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 All right. So as we approach the end zone or the red zone rather, I did that. I was so excited to say it and then I said it wrong.
Okay.
Come on. I was like, I can't go the whole episode and not mention any sports analogy whatsoever. So I was like waiting for this one. I was so excited that I told the punchline before the joke. So anyhow,
Okay.
yeah. So as we approach the red zone
Yes.
and wrap up this episode, where can people connect with you?
Sure. LinkedIn is a great resource. LinkedIn, the Play for Peace initiative is something that we like I said we find out more about what we're doing. You can find us there at the P4 as in the number 4 P4P initiative.org. Again, P4P initiative.org. The Wealth Building Project is our podcast. And so we in that regard, we're talking about financial literacy. We're talking about wealth creation. We're talking about, not just about money, but what are the things, the building blocks to what I call true wealth creation. So it is financial literacy. It's community development, right? And it's obviously, having a vision and taking care of yourself and your family and all those things. And so we talk about a lot of those things to build brand awareness. But I would say, that's probably the easiest way is LinkedIn and
Super.
our the wealthbuildingproject.com
Okay.
and then yes.
All right, we'll put the links in the show notes. And the last thing, Markell has offered a free 1 hour discovery call for listeners of this podcast. So for more information about that, also check the link in the show notes.
Perfect. Perfect.
So, Markell, truly thank you so much for being here today. I feel like I'm going to have this smile the rest of the day. It always
Well,
happens. I
Jillian,
appreciate. But this is the shortest conversation I think we've ever had. But thank you for tuning in, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode. Cheers.
yeah,